Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Lead Podcast. And today we're going to talk about the power of influence. Amy, so great to see you. Let's jump into today's episode.
So great to see you, Mr. Matt, the man of all conferences, all things leadership. If anybody needs somebody to come present and speak to their emerging leaders, managers, or organization, he is your guy. We just had him at Barcelona Wine Bar this year and made a big impact, and the managers are still talking about it. So great to be here with Matt. And of course, we have our rock star, unicorn, badass Dan Kinsinger, and he is the Director of Training and Operations Excellence for Barcelona by and Corsica Wine Bar. And so, welcome, Dan K, as everyone calls you in the industry, to the Lead Podcast, where we focus on developing and influencing emerging leaders in the industry.
Hi, Amy. Hi, Matt. How are you both?
Hi, Dan, the man with the great hair. So, tell us a little bit about what you do, your daily role, but also why you love what you do and what drives you.
Yeah. Training operations excellence at Barcelona. It's a lot of things, right? It's all things training, of course, whether that's new restaurant opens, new leaders, new hourly teams, new training content, but also systems, processes, internal comms, ensuring that our teams are aligned and they get the things that they need to actually be successful in their roles, right? At the end of the day, whether that's a bartender or a general manager or, somebody on the people team, it's flexing and kind of helping, help people figure out where they need and then giving them tools to actually get there. Um, but for me, it's all about that, right? It's about helping people uh figure out what makes them tick, right, and light up, and then really giving them what they need to make sure that they actually do the job that they need to do and do it well and influence other people.
Yeah. What a simple way to state it, right? I heard all of these things and I've seen a little bit about all the things you do, but you brought it back down to just making sure people have what they need, not only in the people development side, but in the systems and process side. And it sounds like a lot. And what's it like for you on a daily basis? Somebody just heard that introduction might be, holy shit, that's a lot that Dan manages. How do you manage with so many different priorities, things, responsibilities in your role? What do you experience on what's one of the biggest challenges you face on a daily basis?
Well, I think it's a couple of things, right? How to juggle those different pieces. It's leaning on those around you, right? Whether that's the training team, right, who works really hard to help on training content and training others, whether that's our restaurant operators who at the end of the day are the ones who are doing the thing and need the tools, right? And being that person in the middle or that nucleus to help, ensure that what they need is delivered in the right way. It's all about other people, right? Everyone needs something a little bit different from you all the time. So there's a little bit of flexing you have to do, right? Some people might need one version of you at one point and another version at another. And it's, you know, leaning in, reading body language, understanding what they need, and then flexing a little bit to do that thing in that way.
So there's the beautiful leadership lesson number one for anybody that's watching this. If you're an emerging leader, what Dan just did is it wasn't about him. So often when we talk about somebody's responsibilities or the role, they say, what I have to do, he immediately set himself up. I'm here at service of others. A question that you can reflect and ask yourself is, what am I doing to serve my people? What are my leaders doing to serve me? No projecting on what that answer might look like for you, but spending time on the question can open up some things for you in your leadership journey. Dan, one thing I know that you're passionate about is development plans. This is something that I support operators with. I hear it all the time. Some are good, some are bad. Tell me what development plans look like for you inside Barcelona Wine Bar and
It is the single most important thing you can do for your team is invest in them. A lot of times restaurant operators, you're like ships in the night. You're a GM, you're AGM, you're intentionally scheduled opposite shifts, right? You might see each other for a few minutes. You're doing passing, hey, you opened, I'm closing, how'd it go? We're good.
Yeah.
But you don't get that time that's just about you and your person, right? So something we focused on at Barcelona Wine Bar in 2025, we dubbed the year of development, which we're just wrapping up, right? Ensuring every leader in the business has a development plan that is for them and about them, right? Anyone from a captain or a trainer with their manager to a GM with their director or to a director with the VP, right? Anybody in the business has some time that's about them. And what that does, it just gives you 30 minutes or an hour to set some goals and help figure out where you want to go, right? And you as a leader kind of get to be the one to do that for them. To help collaborate and set some SMART goals, right? We find a lot of times in these sessions, people don't know what they want or where they want to go, and they've got some abstract ideas. And as a leader, your job in development is to help them make sense of that and give them a little bit of direction and turn those into SMART goals, right? They're actually measurable and specific and relevant and all the things. But it breaks it down into bite-sized pieces so they actually know where they need to go.
Well, you just want to spend some time on, because some leaders out there might be working on their own personal development plans or inside their restaurant group. What
Yeah.
happens when somebody doesn't know? Like what I always say is people spend more time planning their vacation than they do their development plans. I got a good friend going to Italy soon, and she's mapped out this great experience. I think she leaves next week, and she spent so much time planning the trip. But I asked, do you spend as much time planning your vacation as you do your development plans? What do you do when you have a leader sitting in front of you that is unsure? How do you make them feel supported?
I think a lot of us are unsure. I'm unsure sometimes, right? It's it's but that's why you have a partner in your leader, right? It's through trust. If you spend some time actually getting to know the person on your team, right? Ask them how their day is, genuinely mean it, build some real connections with them and build some trust. You can really dig in and help them kind of figure it out. Even if that's I don't know, but I know I like to do this, or I know I like the numbers, but I don't know what about it I actually like, right? That's how you help someone figure out that they might be a manager that wants to actually become a beverage manager and focus on beverage, right? Is that they know they like something, and your job is to help them steer the direction, even if those are little bite-sized pieces.
And one question I say that we can't coach the person who's not in front of us. So we could talk about the people you're developing, but can I ask you a question? How do you build trust with your people? Like, I know how much people trust you, but from your belief and your lens, what do you feel you do that allows people to trust you so much on your team?
I think it's all the little moments. It's every interaction you have. It's genuinely leaning in and caring about your people helps build trust, right?
Do you have some tactics around that though? I mean, how do you, because genuinely care, what does that mean to you? Like how do you show up and do that for them? I think a lot of people would love to learn that. Some people are stronger with EQ skills than they are IQ, and some are stronger in the business acumen versus the culture department. And everybody says you have to have a great culture, but like sometimes a lot of times I've learned, what does that mean? How do you do that? So genuinely caring and building that trust. What are some of the things you do that with your team?
It's consistency. It's showing up every day in the same way, right? But not to confuse that with not being able to flex a little bit, right, for your team, because some days they might need something different, right? It starts with the hard checks. It's basic. How's your day going? Where are you right now? And how are you feeling? Sometimes we're going to go into a conversation with one intention, right? But through that hard check conversation, you might steer it in an entirely different direction. We might be heading into a development plan, right, where we're going to talk about your development, what's next for you. If we open that conversation with a hard check and you open up to me about something going on totally outside of work and you don't have the space or capacity right now to think about that thing, I'm closing the laptop and we're talking about something totally else for a second. We're going to put that back on the calendar, right? It's important the development plan conversations are never missed or skipped, but sometimes they can pivot, right? Your team is human and they need a different version of you sometimes. And having that vulnerability and the emotional intelligence to be able to pivot in the moment over time, really consistently, builds trust. I think that consistency beats the intensity in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
And can I ask, because I think what comes across for me in some development plans of what can we do different? One thing that I watched that was really beautiful with your interaction with some of your team was that there was a comfort level in them celebrating their wins. So
Mhm.
sometimes talk about I showed up right now and I don't have the capacity because I've got an issue with my partner. I'm showing up. I bought my first house, and I'm in that moment. I can't really go like, there's the positive side of each. And so often we focus on the gap, but your team has an ability to show up and feel comfortable celebrating. How is recognizing the positive versus course correcting or supporting the challenge? Like, give me some examples of how you may have seen both in the past year.
Great question.
That's a great question, Matt. And I think they're so important. You have to do both all the time. You have to balance the vulnerability with a little bit of accountability, right? At the same time. You've got to have the tough conversations. They can't not happen, but it's about knowing when and how to deliver them is the most important piece, right? There are times when you have to move on and have a conversation, but there's sometimes you need to have the conversation right now. And yeah, they might be going through a tough time, but if you lead with that emotional intelligence, you're able to navigate through both.
And maybe a question to the both of you: has there been anything that you've read, work you've done, worked with a mentor that's helped you develop your emotional intelligence? Because it comes out of both of you so strong, and people know how much you both care. But Dan, to you, like, how have you built that skill?
Through my career, I've had a few mentors who are really strong in this and continue to give me feedback, right? I think as a leader, you have to be able to take the feedback from both directions, asking your leader, how am I doing? How am I showing up? What are you seeing right now specifically? Coming off a meeting, how did we just do? What do you think? How was that? Take some feedback, listen, sit in it for a second, but then actually grow from that and follow up and say, did we improve, right? That's important, but you have to do that for your team as well, right? Whether it's a development plan, whether it's a weekly check-in, asking your team what they need from you, or if they have feedback for you, is sometimes even more important than the feedback that you give them, right? I kind of like to find myself asking it, framing that question in a similar way every time, right? Like, what do you need from me right now? Or how can I be showing up differently or better to support you right now in this moment? And you'll find that the consistency in that will allow your team member to give you some really good feedback that you can take and actually adjust and actually do something with that, right? Because a lot of leaders will say that, but then they'll do nothing with it. That breaks all the trust.
Yeah.
Sometimes they'll give you feedback that you can't control, right? It's important you explain the why. But the things that you can fix, you get to fix them.
So just and this,
I
I'm sorry, go ahead, Amy.
No, I was just gonna say, I think the big piece about emotional intelligence, if you're not great at it, is get really good at being uncomfortable
Mm.
with checking in on people, not crossing the line, but finding the middle ground of, do they have kids? Do they have a new girlfriend? Not hinting to anyone on the call. Are they involved in a hobby, and getting to know them personally and building that trust with them that you care about them as a human. I've also worked for leaders that I would never do anything like them. And I take notes and I journal on it and say things not to do when I get to that level. And I think I go back now and leading an organization of, these are things I would never do. And I think one of the other things that is important in EQ is listening and asking the right questions and asking probing questions and getting to where people actually are giving you really good data so that you can learn and get better. You can't make decisions sitting at a desk. You have to get into the field. You have to do roundtables. You have to do start, stop, continues. You have to do those things where the team has a voice. A lot of companies right now do team member voice. They do check-ins, and then there's zero follow-up.
Yep.
And the follow-up is also the biggest piece of listening and taking action. And so I was in a restaurant last weekend and they gave me a bunch of notes and we adjusted very quickly and fixed some of the things they needed so that they felt heard. That also retains your team, which turns into more revenue for you and or retention, which lowers your training dollars. So it's all of those things. But there are leaders that I think Matt, Dan, all of us have watched or led with or partnered with or been influenced by, that we take things from and things we would not do. But learning EQ is very hard if it is not natural for you. So you have to get uncomfortable with those situations to learn how to be comfortable in them. And you have to be focused on actually making the change. A lot of people don't invest the time, but those are the people want to work for.
100%. What you mentioned something there in respect to all of this is it improves retention. One thing I want to celebrate is my understanding, Dan, is you have some of industry leading retention results in 2025. So work that started in 2024 and retention from a leadership team in 2025 that is pretty remarkable. And it goes from development plans to developing others. Tell me a little bit about how developing others, what that looks like to you, and how that might be supporting retention.
Sure. They, of course, go hand in hand, right? Focusing on development is kind of two pieces, right? It's the development of the brand new starters, right? Someone comes into the business for the first time, it's making sure that it's high impact really fast and you wow them on day one. People remember their first day at a job. They just do, right? And making sure that you're really setting up for success in day one from the start. And that intro onboarding training process is really tight with a lot of follow-up, a lot of pieces. But you're kind of juggling a couple things, right? When you're training, you're bringing someone in for the first time. So you've got to kill them with the kindness, right? And give them a lot of warm and fuzzies and welcome them with this brand new. And we're so excited that you're here. And they're excited that they're here. And this is all brand new from them. But you also got to give a little bit of the benefit of the doubt because they're kind of drinking from the fire hose, right? It's brand new. They don't even know where the bathroom is yet. You're expecting them to learn all this stuff, right? So you've got to make sure that they've, you give them that benefit that they understand it, but then also you got to hold them accountable really quickly, right? Make sure that once you've given the tools, you're also assessing like, are we right for them, right? If you can find that balance and do those three things, people coming in end up being a lot more successful.
I love that, Dan. Matt, though, Matt teaches this and coaches this. So, um, what what are some insights from you, Mr. Rolfe?
In developing others,
Mm-hmm.
I think the first step,
You're a GM and a manager. Like, how do you? What's your advice on that?
the pattern that I've seen that is most impactful, and I think Dan shared this so well up front, is how do we see the person, not the position? So how do we see them that they are human before they're our employer or our team member? And what happens? They come in, they don't know where the washroom is, they're drinking from a fire hose, and we're trying to push. But can we create moments of pause to show that I care about you as a person? The next thing, and I think again to having a glimpse into Dan's work, is they say people are 4 times more engaged when they're bought into a vision bigger than themselves. Why should they give a shit about what there's restaurants in every major city looking for employees right now? So is there a program? Is there a culture? Is there an experience that you're looking to create? And that's a filter. Your experience you're looking to create isn't right. Your core values, beliefs are not right. But what we're trying to do is find people that align as close as possible. And if people don't, that's okay. I think Dan shared it there. Is sometimes we need, it's not a bad thing if somebody is with us for 30 days and leaves. I hate to say it, natural turnover. If they might have been a good hire, but we weren't a great fit for them. But what we want to continue to do is find people who believe what we believe. And my side is, I think our industry has been through a lot in the last decade, and it continues to go. Like we're all looking through change this year. So what I said, let's look through the change. But I saw a friend of ours post recently and to say, who cares? It's going to be hard. Let's embrace hard and go get it. And teams that rally can go do that. So I'm a big believer in, process is the foundation. We don't do anything in our industry without people.
I the embrace the hard and go get it is something that I want to give Dan a couple questions around, because Dan has built this legacy and brand identity and around showing up as a positive leader with high energy and can do and let's just get it done, and high productivity, high impact. So Dan, as you lead, you wake up in the morning, how do you keep a positive leadership mindset? Because I do think it influences all those around you. And it's not always easy. I mean, there are things that happen, and sometimes I see you shake your head, "Oh my gosh, what's happening?" But how do you keep that for your team and also for the organization? Because when people think of you, you're part of Dan's personal brand. It is part of that, and that you get stuff done for people and super supportive, guiding, but also just a hugely positive leader.
Well, first, thank you. I appreciate that. But it's something that I think takes a lot of intention, right? You've got to challenges that happen through the day. I see them kind of like a puzzle a little bit, right? It's like a game you get to play where you get to take a problem and you get to make something that looks like a lot of chaos and make it make sense for someone else so that they can do their job better, right? That's the thing that brings me joy. If we can take something that was a problem or is an issue that somebody brought up and we can like put our heads together really fast, even if that's at a weird hour of the day or takes us away from something we thought we were going to be doing today, and we get to solve a little mini problem and make even just a moment easier for someone, that kind of that's kind of the thing that gets me excited, right? Because then it means it's going to help them do their job. They're going to be more productive. They're going to have more fun, and it all goes into their development. But you've got to be okay shifting your plan, right? I think I've gone into work every single day with a plan. Probably never once been able to follow that plan. Something comes up, there's a fire, there's a thing, right? But you can be a little bit of a fire preventer so that you're not putting out all the fires, but those things are still going to pop up and you have to be okay with that. If you have a plan that you can steer back to, it makes it a little bit more easy and you can kind of have fun while you do it.
One of my favorite quotes is be clear on the destination, but flexible on the approach. While you were sharing, there's a random question that I'm going to throw at you now rather than at the end. So if last year was your movie and we're sitting in the audience right now watching your 2025 movie, and we're about to head into 2026. The really exciting part of the story. What would people be screaming at the screen right now? What do you need to do in 2026 to be successful? So we've just watched 2025. What in your gut do you feel that you're going to focus on to make your leadership even stronger in 26?
Continued accountability, right? It's finding that really sweet spot balance. Sweet spot balance in continuing to lead, continuing to connect,
Yep.
but finding balance.
That's what I admire about you because I believe you can find balance. You have the emotional stability, which I do not. So those of you both know me very well, and I'm okay with it. Like I built, I'm wired the way I am. Libra. I don't know if that means anything, but I do admire that about you. And you just shared some feedback back to me. Now I want to get into the feedback conversation because I think you do it incredibly well. Um, what does feedback look like inside your company and your team? We've touched a little bit on it, but when does it happen? How does it happen? How do you approach it tactically for the emerging leader?
Tactically, for the emerging leader, it's challenging, right? Um, if you're in you've got a lot of people on your team, things are moving very fast. When you're giving feedback to somebody in a team in your restaurant or outside of your restaurant or whatever your role is, right? It's really easy to let that thing go by and miss it, right? And say, oh, I'll get to that later. We'll have that conversation later. Or this might have been a one-off, right? And it may never happen again. So I'm going to ignore it, right?
Yep.
Making sure that you don't walk past those mistakes, but you're also finding that balance between praising in public, coaching in private, right, is a really important one. A lot of people, when you're kind of in that role when you're coaching for the first time, you go overly compliment sandwichy, right? Where you say something nice about them, you give them the feedback, and then you kiss them on the way out. And you're a little bit too forced and structured with it. It doesn't really land. But if we've been talking all day and we've had all the fun and the good conversations, and we have to have a moment of a hard conversation, it's going to land a lot better, a lot faster. But what's really important is that once that conversation happens, you've actually moved on, right?
Yeah.
Because people don't love to be coached, even in private, no matter what it is. It can feel really small to you as the leader, but to that person on your team, that is the biggest can of worms that you've just opened, and you've just absolutely crushed their day. If you don't intentionally move on and show your person that you moved on from that, they're going to think you're mad at them all night, and you're probably not.
And tell me a little bit about recognition, and I'll share. I watched something incredible at one of your company events where often I see awards at events or recognition points, but there's a little bit of friction in the room. Who got what? I watched like members of your team in tears for other members of their team. And I watched hugs and high fives, and a room full of 40 sounded like a room full of 140 if you're inside the other side of the restaurant celebrating each other. And I don't think that was about the event. I don't think it was about the moment because people knew the results before the moment. There's obviously something that I didn't get a chance to see that you do, you inspire your team to do to recognize. What does recognition look like within your team? When does that happen?
In a lot of ways, right? I think in the restaurant setting, great place for that to happen is a pre-shift, right? A hospitality huddle, as we like to call it, right? You're getting ready for your night and your shift, and it's more of a pre-shift. It's a huddle, right? Where you're taking the time to come together as a group and inspire and get ready. That is a great moment to shout somebody out, right? We like to call that a little core value call out, right? Um, how do you connect that team in the moment to the bigger picture, right? You mentioned that earlier. Tying your shout outs to that is a really great way to do that. And you don't have to there doesn't have to be an over enforced or created process around it, but to tie your shout outs and your moment of praise back to the bigger picture and back to the core values is a great way to get your team engaged, and they feel really excited and connected back to your restaurant, right? Because sometimes your four walls, your team, in a lot of ways, that's the most important part, right? You're there, you're in the shift, you're getting ready to play the game.
Yeah.
Shout your team out, make sure they're feeling good going in, but also make sure you're connecting that to the bigger picture in the background.
Just ask a question on pre-shifts, whether you're a leader leading a multi-site group right now or leading four walls inside of a restaurant. My understanding is your restaurants are incredibly busy, from my lens, right? Per square, like busy. Do you run pre-shifts all the time? Like, are they happen daily? Like, how important are pre-shifts to the communication? It's something that I see that I hear more and more is not happening as consistently as it once should, but those that are doing it seem to have something nailed. I don't want to project inside your experience.
Well, it's finding ways to do it. They may be brief. You can't always do a hour long pre-shift anymore. It's just not realistic, right? Sometimes that happens after the restaurant opens. There's people who still need to work on the bar because someone's ordering a cocktail. So the whole team might not even be able to be there. But to find ways to be really impactful really fast with a lot of praise, right? But making sure you're finding ways to fill in the other teams. If you're doing a quick connect in 5, that might happen at the end of the night when they're checking out. You might keep a bulletin board at the back of house where you write your notes and you keep your pre-shifts posted so everybody can read it, right? But it's a moment for trust building, a moment for culture, and a moment to make that team feel really connected. But the balance, like we talked about before, is really critical. It's operational clarity, it's bringing high energy, and it's making them feel connected. Even if they're quick, even if they're fast, it's great to spot like growth, not just your sales goals for the night.
So we want to get into some, just as we look to wrap the episode, is looking at leaving the audience with some tactical steps. What are 1, 2, 3 pieces of advice you would give an emerging leader now? I know we've covered a lot here. I just want to give you free space to share. If I could go back and tell myself, or if I could speak to somebody who's got all the skill in the world, what would I want to share with them right now?
Number one, spend time investing in your own development, right? As emerging leaders, like it's hard to remember that for you, it, there is a space where you can kind of grow and there's something that's next for you, right? As a leader. A lot of people will come into a new role and spend a lot of time thinking about, their team and what's next and how do I just get through the shift, right? But it's how do you transition that and think about your own growth as well, right? And setting some goals for yourself. Sometimes those goals are really abstract and you get lost in the clouds because you're not sure exactly what you want. But if you spend time connecting with your leader, right, to make those goals really clear and really succinct, it'll help you kind of plan for what's next. The second piece, though, is make sure you're investing in your people, right? Continue to build those connections with every person on your team as you invest in themselves or invest in them, right? As the next gen. We've all had someone in our career at some point who's been that person for us, right? Where they saw the thing in you for the first time and they helped you get to the next level when maybe you didn't know what you wanted or you didn't know where you were going. There's a person who saw a thing in you and saw a spark and helped you kind of get there. As an emerging leader, you get to now do that for the next generation of your team and you get to start paying that forward. But it's important to find that balance. You spend a lot of time investing in others. You've got to take a minute to invest in yourself and set your own goals and strike that balance is a really good way to do that.
Amy, wait. Correct.
And then third would be connect your team to the bigger picture.
Yep. It's easy things that we usually say, but it doesn't usually happen, to be honest. I hate to say, I'm not trying to put judgment on it, but when I ask people, what's the number one reason why they've left a senior position or a management position is they've lost their personal connection to where the team was going. And it's like had a chance to interview hundreds of people. It's a repeating pattern that if we just take time to communicate, it can create so much more connection.
I think there's, Matt, to add on that, and Dan, there's data around the fact that second level reaches or skip level, second level reaches are important and more important than the relationship they have with their immediate supervisor. So if you're a manager and you're a G or a GM, that manager may want to have a relationship or will want to have a relationship with that regional director if you're in the field. Same in a support center. If you're a GM, they're still going to want to know that CEO and have a relationship with them. And so investment of time and asking what that person's getting developed in or working on for themselves or what's going on in their lives is that connection where they feel like you're building a culture of not and I gotcha, but I'm letting you down when things go sideways and they feel more disappointed rather than who cares? I don't even know who they are. But it's more of, oh my gosh, I let Matt down and I know Matt and I have a person relate. Hey, Matt, I'm really sorry. It's much different than Matt's the CEO, director of training. Like, who cares? And I think a lot of those connections are lacking right now. With as crazy as the world is, everybody's got to pause and do those second level reaches and those touch points with their teams.
No, I love it. I think it's with the intention. I've heard how you both walk through your restaurants and know the names and the people, even with your growth and the amount of people. The other side, Dan shared that I want to share at the end, that Dan shared brilliantly at the start, was the pattern that showed up with the high performing leaders on this podcast is they've all went and asked and they've all went and got it. So we need to create the opportunity to create relationship. If you are a senior leader, if you're an emerging leader or somebody looking for the next opportunity, I encourage you to get clear on what you want,
Mhm.
start the conversation.
Mhm.
With
Love
that,
that.
I think we take that step. Great things can follow. Amy, do you want to say anything? What's coming up for lead, Amy?
Lead is busy in 2026, right? Matt and Dan, who are all on lead. And the next event is March 24th in Kansas City at Chicken and Pickle. We've got some top CEOs speaking at that. We've got Karen Stutz teaching a finance course. We've got Emily Williams Knight coming in talking about grit and leadership. We have Matt Rolfe coming in talking about how to develop yourself that we were discussing today. We then have on June 11th a lead event in Dallas at Mexican Sugar with sponsored by Front Burner Society and Jack Gibbons and Jamie Sharp. That one we're really looking forward to. We've got Adam Halberg coming to that. We've got Emily Williams Knight and Karen, of course, and yourself as well to teach that community. So if you're an emerging leader and you're interested in signing up, please go to the link that Matt has attached here in the team to grab a ticket. We limit them so that you can have access and time with those C-suite folks and get some good time and talk, and you may have some questions and mentoring. And we also then will have Sizzle and Spin for those listening that want to invest in your teams and come in and sizzle and spin for an hour. It's a cycling hour that we do as a fundraiser at the Chicago Restaurant Show. That's the Sunday at 9 a.m. And there'll be more information on the lead website about all of this. But we are looking at almost sold out tickets in Kansas City already, and we definitely have this need in the industry. So, as always, thank you, Matt, for being such a big part of what we do and running our podcast, and Dan for being on as a guest today. You were amazing.